Hello, sleepy soul. The night is quiet, the world is asleep, and something is waiting in the dark. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and write your country and current time in the comments. Now listen carefully. Have you ever had someone message you at the exact same time every night? Not around the same time. Not late. I mean exact. For me, it was 3:13 a.m. My name is Owen. I was 18 when this happened, a freshman at a small college in Pennsylvania. I won't say the name because I still know people who go there, and honestly, I don't want this story turning into some campus rumor people try to investigate for fun. Back then, I lived in Westbrook Hall, which was one of those older dorm buildings that always smelled faintly like laundry detergent, dust, and old radiator heat. It had 5 floors, bad lighting, and stairwells that echoed in a way that made every sound feel closer than it was. I was lonely that first semester. Not in a dramatic way, just quiet. I didn't really click with my roommate. My classes were bigger than I expected. Everyone seemed to make friends in the first week, and I felt like I'd missed some invisible deadline. So I downloaded a dating app. That's where I met Elise. Her profile said she was 19, a sophomore, and lived on campus. Her pictures were normal, nothing too polished. One of her in a hoodie outside the library, one in a dorm mirror, one blurry photo of her holding a coffee, laughing at something off camera. She messaged first. "Westbrook Hall is haunted, right?" I laughed when I saw it, because my profile had mentioned I lived there. I wrote back, "Only by sleep-deprived freshmen." She replied, "Same thing." That was how it started. She was funny. Not fake funny, not trying too hard. She asked about my classes, my hometown, my roommate who chewed cereal with his mouth open. She said she lived in Westbrook too, on the 2nd floor. But there was one weird thing. She never messaged during the day. I'd send something at noon, and it would sit there. Delivered. No reply. Then, at exactly 3:13 a.m., my phone would buzz. Every night. At first, I thought she worked late or had insomnia. She said she slept weird because of anxiety. That sounded believable enough. College was full of people with strange schedules. Then she started sending pictures. The first one was of the library basement. Just rows of shelves and that ugly yellow light that made everything look old. Her message said, "Ever been down here after midnight?" I replied, "No, and now I never will." The next night, 3:13 a.m., she sent a photo of the laundry room in my dorm. Empty washers, one dryer door hanging open. Your building gets so quiet when everyone's asleep. I stared at it for a long time. I told myself it was nothing. She lived there too. Of course, she could be in the laundry room. But then came the stairwell. It was the stairwell outside my floor. I knew because someone had drawn a little smiley face on the wall near the 4th floor sign. It was in the photo. Her message said, "You're closer than you think." I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the hallway made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. I got out of bed and opened my door. The hallway was empty, just the long strip of carpet, the humming vending machine at the end, and the dim exit sign glowing red over the stairs. I messaged her, "Were you just outside my floor?" At 3:14, she replied, "No, you looked too late." My stomach tightened. The next day, I asked around casually if anyone knew an Elise in Westbrook. My roommate shrugged. A girl from my English class said the name sounded familiar, but she wasn't sure. Nobody gave me a straight yes. That should have been enough for me to block her. But loneliness makes you explain things away. I told myself she was shy. I told myself maybe she liked being mysterious. I told myself I was overthinking because I wasn't used to attention. Then 4 nights later, she sent a photo of my dorm room door. My actual door. The little scratch under the peephole. The whiteboard my mom had bought me. My name written in blue marker. The message under it said, "Are you awake?" My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me in my memory, and I realized I was completely alone. Someone was watching, and I had no way out. I jumped out of bed, grabbed my phone, and opened the door so fast I almost slammed it into the wall. Nobody was there. But taped to the wall across from my room was a folded piece of notebook paper. My hands were shaking when I pulled it down. Inside, written in neat, round handwriting, were 4 words. "You look too late." I didn't sleep after that. The next morning, I went to campus security. The officer at the front desk was an older guy with a gray mustache. I showed him the messages and the note. He frowned, but not the way you want someone to frown when you're scared. More like I was giving him paperwork. He said, "Could be another student messing with you." I said, "She sent a picture of my door at 3 in the morning." He asked if I had seen anyone. I said no. He told me to block the account, keep my door locked, and call if anything else happened. That was it. So I blocked her. For one day, nothing happened. Then at 3:13 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. Not on the app. My actual phone number. It said, blocking me was rude. I sat up so fast my blanket fell off the bed. Another message came through. A picture. It was me, taken from above, walking into Westbrook Hall on move-in day. My dad was beside me carrying a plastic bin. I was holding a pillow under one arm. I had never posted that picture anywhere. The next message said, "I noticed you before you noticed me." That was when fear stopped being interesting. It stopped being creepy in a fun way. It became real. I called my RA, a junior named Mason. He came down half asleep in pajama pants, but when he saw the messages, he woke up fast. He said, "That's not okay." He walked me to campus security again, and this time they took it more seriously. They wrote a report. They said they'd check camera footage. They told me not to respond. Later that afternoon, Mason came back to my room looking pale. He said, "There was an Elise here." I asked what he meant. He lowered his voice. "Like years ago, a girl named Elise Harper. She lived in Westbrook. She went missing." I remember the way the room seemed to tilt a little when he said that. We searched her name. There were old articles. Not many, but enough. Elise Harper, 19, sophomore. Last seen leaving Westbrook Hall late at night. Phone found near the library. No confirmed suspect. No body. Case still open. And the photos in the articles were the same girl from the dating profile. Same hoodie. Same smile. Same coffee picture. I felt sick. Whoever I had been talking to wasn't Elise. They were using a missing girl's photos. That night, I packed a bag and stayed in Mason's room. I didn't care if it made me look scared. I was scared. At 3:13, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Wrong room. Then another picture came in. It was Mason's door. From the hallway. Mason and I just stared at it. Then we heard something outside. Not a knock. A soft scrape. Like paper being slid under the door. Mason whispered, "Don't move." We waited. Then footsteps went slowly down the hall. Mason called campus security, while I stood there with my back against the wall, barely breathing. When security arrived, they found another folded note under the door. This one said, "Elise liked boys who followed directions." The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting outside the window, but my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. The police got involved after that. Real police, not just campus security. They asked questions. They took screenshots. They asked if I had enemies, if I owed money, if I'd been talking to anyone else online. I kept saying no. Then one detective asked something that made my skin go cold. "Did anyone with campus access ever speak to you more than once?" I thought about professors, cafeteria workers, maintenance. Then I remembered the night security guard. His name was Carl. He worked the front desk in Westbrook from midnight to morning. He was maybe in his 40s, heavy set, always wearing a dark jacket even indoors. He had this calm, flat way of talking, like nothing surprised him. He'd said hi to me a bunch of times. He knew my name because everyone scanned IDs at the desk. Once, when I came back late from the dining hall, he said, "Long night, Owen?" I thought he was just being friendly. The detectives must have already suspected me, because when I mentioned Carl, they looked at each other. Later, I found out Carl had access to security cameras, dorm entrances, hallways, library doors, laundry rooms. Every place Elise had sent me pictures from. He had also worked at the college when the real Elise disappeared. They arrested him 2 days later. I wasn't there, but Mason heard from another RA that Carl was taken from the security office before dawn. They found printed photos in his locker. Notes, screenshots of dating app profiles. Not just mine, other boys, lonely freshmen, new students, people who didn't have enough friends yet to be missed right away. The police never told me everything. Maybe they couldn't. Maybe they didn't want to. Elisa's case stayed complicated, at least publicly. But Carl was charged with stalking, harassment, and other things connected to what he'd been doing online. I transferred schools after that semester. People asked why, and I usually said I wanted to be closer to home. That was partly true, but the real reason was that I couldn't walk through Westbrook anymore without feeling watched. Even now, years later, I hate getting texts late at night. I hate security cameras. I hate stairwells with buzzing lights. And if my phone ever lights up around 3 a.m., I don't check it right away. I just lie there for a second, listening. Because sometimes the scariest part isn't finding out someone lied about who they were. It's realizing they knew exactly who you were the whole time. Story 2. The first time I realized my daughter's online boyfriend knew our house too well, we were eating spaghetti on the couch. That sounds like such a normal sentence. Boring even. It was a Tuesday night. Rain tapping against the windows. My daughter Emma had her knees pulled up under an old blanket, and I was half watching some cooking show while answering work emails from my phone. Then Emma's phone buzzed. She looked at it, smiled, and turned the screen away. I didn't think much of it at first. She was 15. 15-year-olds guard their phones like state secrets. I said, "Who's that?" She said, "Noah." Just like that. Casual. I asked, "Do I know Noah?" She shrugged. "He goes to East Ridge. He's 16. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. Nothing fancy. Just rows of small houses, trimmed lawns, basketball hoops and driveways, and porch lights that clicked on around dinner. I was 38 then, a single mom, working long shifts as a medical receptionist. It was just me and Emma. Her dad wasn't really in the picture, and for years, our house felt safe because it had to. I checked the locks every night. I kept the porch light on. I knew which floorboard creaked near the hallway. I thought I was careful, but sometimes danger doesn't kick down your door. Sometimes it messages your child goodnight. At first, Noah seemed harmless. Emma said he was sweet, funny, and not like the immature guys at her school. That line made me roll my eyes, but I remembered being 15. Everyone feels older than they are at 15. Then the little things started. One morning, I left early for work because another receptionist called in sick. Around 8:10, Emma texted me, "Mom, did you tell Noah you left early?" I pulled into the clinic parking lot and stared at the message. I wrote back, "No." "Why?" She replied. He said, "Your mom's gone already, right?" I told myself it was nothing. Maybe Emma had mentioned my schedule. Maybe I was being dramatic. That night, while I was making grilled cheese, Emma laughed at her phone. I asked what was funny. She said, "Noah said he can smell grilled cheese." I froze with the spatula in my hand. She noticed my face and added quickly, "He's joking, Mom." But my gut tightened. The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting outside the kitchen window. But my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. Over the next week, Noah kept knowing things. He knew when I worked late. He knew when Emma was home alone. He knew we had watched a movie with the lights off. One night, he messaged her, "Tell your mom the blue sweater looks nice." I was wearing a blue sweater. Emma laughed at first, then saw I wasn't laughing. "Did you send him a picture?" I asked. "No." "Did you video call him?" "No, Mom. I swear." That was when I asked to see his profile. She hesitated, which told me everything. Noah had no full last name, just Noah. His profile photo was a grainy mirror selfie. Dark hair covering part of his face. Hoodie. Phone hiding most of him. The kind of picture that could be anyone. I asked if she had ever met him in person. "No," she said. "But we're going to." "No, you're not." She got upset, slammed her bedroom door, cried, told me I didn't trust her. And honestly, that part hurt, because I did trust her. I just didn't trust him. That night, after she fell asleep, I did something I'm not proud of, but I would do it again. I made a fake profile. I used a random name, a fake school, and a picture that didn't show a face. I made the account look like a teenage girl, but not too obvious. Then I searched for Noah. I found him in less than 5 minutes. Before I could even send a message, he messaged me first. Hey! My hands went cold. I typed, hi. 3 dots appeared. Then he wrote, "You're not 15, Laura." I stopped breathing. My name is Laura. I hadn't used my name on that account. I hadn't linked my phone number. I hadn't posted anything. Before I could move, another message came in. It was a photo, blurry, dark, tilted slightly. But I knew exactly what I was looking at. Our living room, the TV glowing blue, Emma on the couch under her blanket, me beside her holding a bowl of spaghetti. The photo had been taken from inside the room, not through a window, inside. My heart sank into my stomach as I stood in the hallway outside Emma's room, and I realized I was completely alone in that moment. Someone had been watching us, and I had no idea how long. I ran through the house checking windows, doors, closets, the laundry room, the basement. Nothing. No muddy footprints. No broken locks. No open windows. But the back door was unlocked. I always locked the back door. I woke Emma up, probably too sharply because she sat up scared. "Mom, what happened?" I showed her the photo. Her face changed in a way I'll never forget. All the teenage anger disappeared, and suddenly she looked like a little girl again. She whispered, "I didn't send that." "I know." Then she started crying, and that's when she told me the part she had been hiding. Noah had been asking her to unlock the back door. Just once, he'd said. He told her he wanted to leave a gift on the kitchen table. Something romantic, something like in movies. She said no at first. Then he got sad, then cold. Then he told her, "You already let me in once." She said she thought he was joking. I called the police. 2 officers came out and walked around the house with flashlights. They checked the back door, the windows, the yard. One of them asked Emma questions in a gentle voice while she sat wrapped in a blanket, staring at the floor. They said it looked like someone might be using information from social media. Maybe geotags, maybe a hacked account. I showed them the photo. That changed their tone. They asked if anyone had a spare key. I said my sister did, and the old neighbor lady next door had one for emergencies. They asked about contractors, repairmen, ex-boyfriends, delivery drivers. I gave them every name I could think of. For 2 days, we stayed at my sister's apartment. Emma barely spoke. I slept on the couch with my phone in my hand. Then the messages started again. This time, they came to me. "You ruined the game." Then, she was almost brave enough. Then a video. It was a screen recording of a live stream chat. At first I didn't understand what I was seeing. There were usernames flying by, laughing emojis, comments like, "She's crying," and "Tell her the door thing again," and "Laura is freaking out." Then I saw a clip from our living room, Emma and me. From that same night, someone had been streaming us. I felt something in me snap. Not rage exactly, something colder. The police traced what they could. It turned out Noah wasn't one person. It was a fake account shared by a group of older boys from Emma's school and a nearby high school. 17, 18, one was 19 and already graduated. They had been targeting girls they thought were easy to scare. Their words, not mine. They used fake accounts, collected private details, watched stories, followed family posts, and dared each other to push things further. They called it a prank channel, a private stream. But then came the part that still makes me feel sick. One of the viewers wasn't a student. Nobody knew who he was. He had joined their private stream weeks earlier under a fake name. At first, the boys thought he was funny because he encouraged them. Then he started sending them money to keep going. He was the one who sent the photo from inside our living room. He was the one who showed up at our house. We found that out the night he came back. It was almost midnight. Emma and I were still staying with my sister, but I had gone home with a police escort earlier to grab clothes and school books. The officers had left after checking the house, and my sister was supposed to pick me up. I was in Emma's room packing her backpack when I heard a sound downstairs. Not loud, just one soft click. The back door. I stood completely still. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the kitchen made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. My phone was in my hoodie pocket. I dialed 911 without saying a word and crouched beside Emma's bed. The operator answered, and I whispered my address. Then I heard him, a man's voice downstairs, low and calm. "Emma." My whole body went numb. He said it again. "Emma, I brought your gift." I covered my mouth with my hand so hard it hurt. The footsteps moved through the living room. Slow, careful, like he knew the layout. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling, as I fumbled for Emma's bedroom lock. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. The bedroom door didn't have a real lock, just one of those cheap push-button knobs. I pushed it anyway. The stairs creaked. One step, then another. The operator whispered, "Police are on the way. Stay hidden." I slid into Emma's closet, behind her winter coats, and held the phone against my chest. The hallway floor creaked. Then the bedroom door opened. I saw his shoes first through the crack in the closet door. Dark sneakers, wet from the rain. He stood there breathing. Not heavy, not frantic, calm. That was the worst part. Then he said, almost gently, "You don't have to hide." I don't know what sound I made. Maybe nothing. Maybe a tiny breath. But he heard it. He turned toward the closet. The door handle moved. And then red and blue lights flashed across the wall. He froze. A voice outside shouted, "Police." He ran. Everything happened fast after that. Footsteps pounding down the hall. A crash downstairs. Shouting. The back door slamming. Then more shouting outside. They caught him 2 houses over, hiding behind a shed. I saw his face only once, when an officer walked me out. He was older than I expected. Maybe late 30s. Clean cut. Normal. The kind of man you wouldn't notice in a grocery store line. Even after escaping, even with the safety of the police lights behind me, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying the face I'd seen through the window. The calm, empty eyes that didn't blink. The boys who started it all got charged, though not nearly enough in my opinion. Their families cried about ruined futures. Their lawyers called it a prank that got out of hand. But that man, he was something else. Police found gloves, a small camera, and a wrapped bracelet in his car. A gift. For my daughter. We moved 3 months later. Emma is older now. She's doing better, but she still sleeps with her phone across the room. I still check every lock twice. Then once more. I don't post pictures of our house, our meals, our vacations, or anything in real time. People think online danger looks obvious. Some creepy stranger with a blank profile and bad spelling. But sometimes it looks like a boy named Noah who says all the right things. Sometimes it starts as a joke between bored teenagers. And sometimes, watching from the dark, there's someone taking that joke seriously. So if your child says someone online knows things they shouldn't, don't brush it off. Don't tell yourself it's just the internet, because the internet doesn't stay on the screen. Sometimes it learns your address. Sometimes it waits for the back door. And sometimes, if your gut tells you something is wrong, listening to it is the only reason your child is still alive. Story 3. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to trust someone just because the internet tells you they're important? My name is Adrian. I was 26 when this happened, living in a small apartment outside Portland, trying to make photography my full-time job. Most of my work was boring, honestly. Engagement shoots in parks, product photos for local coffee brands, graduation pictures where the mom would stand behind me yelling, "Smile normal." I wasn't famous, but I was getting by. So when Lena Vale messaged me, I thought it was fake. She had over 2 million followers. Lifestyle, fashion, wellness, all that clean beige aesthetic stuff. Her message was short. "Hi Adrian, I love your lighting work. I'm rebranding and need a private shoot. No team. No posting until I approve. Are you available Friday? Then she sent the deposit. Not a promise. Not exposure. Actual money. The shoot was at a rented mansion about 40 minutes outside the city. The kind of place with a long gravel driveway, black windows, and no neighbors close enough to hear anything. I told myself rich people were weird. Influencers were weirder. Still, when I pulled up, something felt wrong. The house was huge, but completely dark except for one upstairs window. Lena opened the front door before I knocked. She was beautiful in that strange, polished way influencers are beautiful, like every part of her had been edited before real life got to see it. Adrian, she said. Not hi. Not nice to meet you. Just my name. I laughed a little and said, that's me. She smiled, but her eyes didn't move with it. Inside, the mansion smelled like dust and new paint. Most of the rooms were empty. No rugs, no furniture, no signs that anyone was staying there. My footsteps echoed too loudly. Then she led me into a room at the end of the hall, and my stomach tightened. It was set up exactly like my studio. Not kind of like it. Exactly. Same black backdrop. Same cheap folding table on the left. Same stool. Same angle for the key light. Even the little strip of gaffer tape I always put on the floor to mark where clients should stand. I tried to make a joke. Wow, you really did your research. She looked at me for a few seconds too long. I like people to feel at home, she said. That was the first moment I should have left. But the money was already in my account, and I didn't want to be dramatic. So I unpacked my camera, checked the lights, and started shooting. At first, everything seemed normal. Lena posed well. Too well, maybe. She barely needed direction. But after 10 minutes, I realized she wasn't blinking. Not once. I lowered the camera and said, you can relax your face between shots. She smiled again. I am relaxed. Her voice was soft, almost bored. A little later, I asked her to turn toward the window. She said, this is the new face. I paused. What? She blinked then. Finally, I said this is the new phase. But I knew what I'd heard. During a break, she went downstairs for water. I checked her Instagram, mostly to calm myself down. I wanted to see her being normal, outside, around people. But her recent videos were strange. All close-ups, all cuts. Her sitting in a chair, her hand holding tea, her face in mirrors. Never on the street, never with friends. Never in daylight where anyone could recognize the background. The comments were full of people saying things like, you seem different lately, and, are you okay? But all the replies from her account were the same. Growth can look unfamiliar. Over and over. I was still staring at the phone when I heard a sound from the hallway. A door clicking shut. I stepped out and saw Lena standing at the far end of the hall. I thought you went downstairs, I said. She tilted her head. I did. Behind her, there was a door I hadn't noticed before. It had a keypad lock. I don't know why I did it. Maybe because fear makes you stupid in a curious way. When she went back into the studio room, I pretended I needed a lens from my bag, then slipped into the hallway. The keypad door was slightly open. Inside was a small office. The walls were covered in printed photos. At first, I thought they were mood boards. Then I stepped closer. They were photographers. Headshots. Instagram screenshots. Business cards. Printed emails. Some had red circles drawn around their faces. And I recognized two of them. One was a wedding photographer I followed who had suddenly stopped posting months earlier. Another was a guy from Seattle whose last post said he was taking a mental health break. On the desk was a folder with my name on it. My hands went cold. Inside were pictures of me unloading gear outside my apartment, me at a gas station, and walking out of a grocery store holding a bag of oranges. Then I heard her behind me. You weren't supposed to look in there. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone. Someone was watching, and I had no way out. I turned around. Lena stood in the doorway, perfectly still. Only now up close I saw it. She looked like Lena Vale, but not exactly. The face was close, but the eyes were wrong. The mouth was wrong, like someone had studied a person through a screen and copied the parts they thought mattered. "Who are you?" I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she said, "You people notice too much." Then I heard movement downstairs. Heavy footsteps. More than one person. "Ich shoved pest here." She grabbed my jacket, and I slipped out of it, knocking over a chair as I ran. I didn't run smart. I didn't grab my camera bag. I didn't think. I just ran. The front door was locked. Of course it was. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling, as I fumbled with the deadbolt. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. Someone shouted from upstairs. Not Lena's voice. A man's. "He's at the door." I got it open just as footsteps hit the stairs behind me. I ran into the driveway without my gear, without my jacket, without anything except my phone. Gravel slipped under my shoes. I heard the door open behind me, but I didn't look back. My car was parked facing the house like an idiot. I dove inside, locked the doors, and dropped my keys between the seat and console. That was the worst 10 seconds of my life. A figure appeared in my windshield. Not running. Walking. Lena, or whoever she was, stood in front of my car with that same calm face. She raised one hand and waved. Not goodbye, like she was posing for a photo. I found the keys, started the car, and reversed so fast I hit a stone planter. Then I tore down the driveway, shaking so badly I almost went into the ditch. I called 911 from the road. By the time police got there, the mansion was empty. No lights, no people, no folder, no photos on the walls. My camera gear was gone too. The officer who took my statement didn't say he thought I was lying, but I could hear it in his voice. Famous influencer. Empty mansion. Secret room. Look-alike. It sounded insane. Then, 2 days later, Lena Vale's account posted a photo. It was me. A portrait from the shoot. The caption said, "Behind the scenes of becoming someone new." I reported it. Nothing happened. A week after that, the account disappeared. So did mine. I woke up one morning and couldn't log in. My email had been changed. My phone number removed. My portfolio deleted. Then I got a DM on my backup account from my old profile. It said, "Thanks for the new face." Attached was a photo of me asleep in my apartment. I moved 3 days later. That was almost 4 years ago, and I still don't take private shoots. I still check windows at night. I still don't trust accounts with perfect photos and no real life behind them. Because the scariest part isn't that someone pretended to be a famous influencer. It's that thousands of people believed the face on the screen. And for one night, I almost became the next one. Story 4. Have you ever matched with someone online who felt a little too perfect? I did. My name is Daniel. I was 29 when this happened, living alone in a one-bedroom apartment in Columbus, Ohio, trying to act like I was fine after a breakup that had hollowed me out more than I wanted to admit. My apartment wasn't special. 3rd floor, beige walls, cheap blinds, a bedroom that always smelled faintly like dust no matter how much I cleaned. The building was old, with pipes that knocked at night and vents that carried everyone's lives through the walls. You could hear a couple arguing below me, someone's dog barking down the hall, the elevator groaning like it was tired of all of us. After my ex moved out, the place felt too quiet. So one night, against my better judgment, I downloaded a dating app. That's how I met Cassie. Her profile was simple. A few pictures, nothing too polished. Brown hair, soft smile, oversized sweater. Her bio said, "Bad at texting first. Good at remembering movie quotes." I swiped right because she listed the same old horror movies I loved. Not the popular ones either. Weird little VHS-era stuff my dad used to rent when I was a kid. We matched almost instantly. Her first message was, "You seem like someone who rewatches movies instead of trying new ones." I laughed because she was right. We talked for hours that first night. She liked the same bands, hated the same fake deep podcasts, remembered the same candy from elementary school that nobody I knew ever talked about. She even mentioned this old dinosaur cereal I thought I had invented in my memory. At first, it felt comforting, like maybe the internet had done one good thing for me. She said she lived nearby, but was shy about meeting. I didn't push. Honestly, I was shy too. I was lonely, but not brave. For about a week, Cassie became part of my routine. I'd get home from work, microwave dinner, sit on my couch, and text her until I fell asleep. Then the first weird message came. It was around 11:30 at night. I was brushing my teeth when my phone buzzed. Cassie, don't forget your bedroom window is open. I froze with the toothbrush in my mouth. My bedroom window was open. I told myself she guessed. Maybe I'd mentioned earlier that the apartment was stuffy. Maybe I posted something. Maybe it was nothing. I replied, lucky guess? She wrote back, you always forget when it gets cold. That bothered me, because I did. I closed the window and locked it. Then I checked the parking lot from behind the curtain, expecting to see someone standing under the streetlight. There was no one. The next day, I made a joke about it. I said, are you spying on me? She replied, only a little. I stared at that message longer than I should have. A few nights later, I was pacing in my living room while we texted. I do that when I'm nervous. I walk from the couch to the kitchen, then back again, over and over. Cassie sent, you pace when you're nervous. My heart sank into my stomach. I stopped moving. For a few seconds, I didn't even breathe. The room was quiet except for the refrigerator humming and a car passing outside. I walked to the window and looked out. Nothing. Just wet pavement, parked cars, orange light from the lamps. I typed, how would you know that? She answered, I pay attention. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the hallway made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. There were no footsteps after that, just silence. The next morning, I asked my coworker Miles about it. He told me to block her. Dude, he said, that's stalker behavior. I said, maybe she's just messing with me. He looked at me like I was stupid. That's what every guy says before he ends up in a documentary. So I blocked her. That lasted one day. She messaged me from a new account. Blocking me was rude. I changed my locks that weekend. The landlord complained, but I paid for it myself. I bought a cheap camera for the living room, one of those motion trigger ones. I started closing my curtains before sunset. For 2 nights, nothing happened. Then, at 1:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. A new message from Cassie. No words, just a photo. It took my brain a second to understand what I was looking at. It was my bedroom mirror. My bed was behind it. My laundry basket. My black hoodie thrown over the chair. And in the mirror, holding the phone up, was Cassie. I was sitting in the living room when she sent it. I remember standing up so fast my knee hit the coffee table. Pain shot through my leg, but I barely felt it. I grabbed a kitchen knife because that's what people do when they're scared and not thinking clearly. I called 911 with my other hand and moved toward the bedroom. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. The dispatcher told me to leave the apartment. I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe because fear makes you stupid. Maybe because I couldn't accept that someone was really in my home. I kicked the bedroom door open. Empty. Closet empty. Under the bed empty. Bathroom empty. The police arrived 15 minutes later and searched everything. They checked the windows, the hallway, the fire escape, the closets. Nothing. One officer asked if maybe the photo was old. I showed him the hoodie on the chair. I had thrown it there an hour earlier. They took a report, told me to stay somewhere else if I could, and left. I stayed at Miles's place that night. I didn't sleep. When I came back the next afternoon, the apartment looked normal. Too normal. Sunlight through the blinds. Dishes in the sink. My shoes by the door. But small things started happening. My toothbrush was on the left side of the sink instead of the right. A carton of orange juice was almost empty, even though I hadn't opened it. My laptop was warm in the morning. At first, I blamed stress. I told myself I was noticing things because I was scared. Then I found my journal open on my desk. I hadn't written in it since the breakup. It was embarrassing stuff. Private stuff. Things about my ex, my childhood, movies my dad showed me, memories I had never told anyone. Memories Cassie had somehow known. I called the police again. This time, one of the officers took it more seriously. Her name was Ramirez. She asked about previous tenants, maintenance workers, anyone who could have access. The landlord said the last tenant was a woman named Cassandra Bell. Cassie. I felt cold all over when he said it. He told us she had been evicted months before I moved in. Quiet woman, he said. Kept to herself. Paid late. Left a lot of stuff behind. Ramirez asked for the building layout. That's when the maintenance guy mentioned something I had never known. There was a crawl space behind my bedroom wall. Not a normal one. More like an old service gap from when the building had different heating. It ran between units, partly sealed, partly forgotten. Access was supposed to be locked from the utility room. Supposed to be. They moved my dresser, and behind it, near the floor, was a panel I had always assumed was just part of the wall. Painted over. Nearly invisible unless you were looking. The maintenance guy pried it open. The smell came out first. Stale air. Sweat. Old food wrappers. Then the beam of his flashlight landed on a blanket, a backpack, a phone charger, a half-empty water bottle, and a small pile of my things. A sock. A pen. One of my old t-shirts. My stomach twisted. Farther in, pressed against the wooden beams, was a woman. Cassie. She was curled up in the crawl space, staring back at us like we were the ones who had invaded her home. She didn't scream. She didn't fight. She just looked at me with this flat, exhausted expression and said, "You weren't supposed to find this yet." I stepped back so hard I hit the bed frame. The police pulled her out. She was thin, pale, and calm in a way that scared me more than if she had been wild. In her backpack, they found an old key to my apartment, a small camera, printed pages from my journal, and a notebook full of details about me. What time I left for work, what I ate, what I watched, when I showered, who I called. She had built Cassie from me, not from herself, from everything I had left unguarded. She had read my journal, used my laptop while I slept, listened through the vents, watched me from behind that wall. The dating app wasn't fate, it was bait. After they took her away, I moved out before the end of the week. I didn't care about the lease. I didn't care about the deposit. I slept in a motel for 3 nights with a chair pushed under the door handle. People kept asking if I felt relieved. I didn't. Relief would mean it was over. About a month later, I was in my new apartment. Different building. Better locks. No crawl spaces, at least none I knew about. I was making coffee before work when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Cassie's account. Just one line. She wasn't the only one with a key. I dropped the mug. It shattered on the floor, coffee spreading across the tile like a dark stain. The police never found out who sent it. Maybe it was her somehow. Maybe it was someone she knew. Maybe it was just a cruel person who got access to the account. That's what I tell myself on good days. On bad nights, when the pipes knock or the walls creak, I sit completely still and listen. Because sometimes the scariest part isn't finding out someone was watching you. It's realizing you may never know when they stopped. Story 5. Have you ever had a stranger online make you feel responsible for whether they lived or died? That's what happened to me. My name is Daniel. I was 26 when this started, living alone in a small apartment outside Columbus, Ohio. I worked nights doing inventory at a grocery warehouse, which sounds depressing, and honestly it was. Most of my life happened after midnight. I'd come home around 6 in the morning, make coffee I didn't need, and watch true crime videos until I fell asleep on the couch. I wasn't a detective. I wasn't even especially brave. I was just one of those people who spent too much time in missing persons forums, reading case files, looking at blurry security camera photos, convincing myself that maybe one random person online could notice the thing everyone else missed. Then one Tuesday morning, just after 3 a.m., I got a message request on Instagram. The profile had no posts, just a picture of a teenage boy in a red hoodie, pale face, brown hair, nervous half smile. The message said, "Please don't ignore this. My name is Aaron. I ran away, but now I can't leave. I stared at it for a while. Then another message came through. I saw your comments on missing people pages. You seem like someone who actually cares. I should have reported it. I should have assumed it was some cruel troll. Instead, I typed back, "Where are you?" 3 dots appeared almost instantly. I don't know. Rural road. White house. Green roof. He takes my phone most of the day. My apartment suddenly felt too quiet. The hum of my fridge, the rain ticking on the window, the soft buzz of my phone in my hand. I asked who he was. Aaron didn't answer for almost a minute. Then he sent a selfie. It was a teenage boy sitting in what looked like a dim bedroom. Red hoodie, same face. There was a bruise-colored shadow under one eye, but the photo was grainy, like it had been taken on an old phone. Below it, he wrote, "Please don't call police yet. He said if I do, he'll move me." My heart sank into my stomach as I looked at that photo. This didn't feel like a prank anymore. Over the next 2 days, Aaron messaged me in bursts. Always late at night or early morning. He said he was 16. Said he'd run away after a fight with his mom. Said a man offered him a place to stay, then locked him inside a farmhouse somewhere outside a town called Belridge. I searched Belridge. It was real. Tiny place, barely a town. Fields, old barns, county roads that all looked the same. He sent voice notes too. Short ones. I can hear trucks sometimes. The road has a church sign near it. There's a barn across from the house. His voice was soft and shaky, like he was trying not to cry. I barely slept. I called in sick. I printed maps. I compared landmarks on Google Street View like some obsessed idiot. My friend Maya told me to stop before I got myself involved in something dangerous. "Send it to the police," she said. "I don't have enough. You have a kid saying he's trapped. But what if they show up wrong and the guy moves him?" Maya went quiet after that. On the 3rd night, Aaron sent coordinates. Just numbers. No explanation. They led to a ditch beside an old county road about an hour from me. I don't know what I expected when I drove there. Maybe a sign. Maybe Aaron himself hiding in the weeds. The road was empty, wet, and black under my headlights. Cornfields on both sides. No houses close enough to see. I parked on the shoulder, left the engine running, and stepped out with my phone flashlight. That's when I saw the backpack. It was lying half buried in mud near the ditch, dark blue with one strap torn. Inside were school notebooks, a dead phone, and a red hoodie. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the flashlight. I called the sheriff's office from my car. A deputy came 20 minutes later and treated me like I was wasting his time until I showed him the messages. He took the backpack, asked me questions, and told me not to contact Aaron again. But that night, Aaron messaged me. "You shouldn't have gone there." I sat up in bed so fast my blanket slid to the floor. "What do you mean?" The reply came immediately. "He saw you." Then he sent another voice note. This one was different. There was no talking at first, just breathing. Then faintly, a phone ringing somewhere far away. And then Aaron whispered, "Don't come to the barn." A location followed. I stared at it until my vision blurred. The smart thing would have been to call the deputy. I did call. No answer. I left a voicemail that sounded insane even to me. Then I drove. The location was an abandoned dairy barn off a gravel road. The kind of place teenagers probably dared each other to enter. My headlights caught broken windows, rusted sheet metal, weeds growing through the boards. The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting in that rural way. But my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. I didn't go inside at first. Then I heard it, a phone ringing. Not from my car, not from my pocket, from inside the barn. I stood there frozen, every nerve screaming at me to leave. But the ringing kept going, echoing through the empty structure. I walked in just far enough to see a phone sitting on a wooden crate. Its screen showed one incoming call. From Aaron. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the hallway behind the stalls made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. I ran. I didn't look back until I was in my car, doors locked. tires spitting gravel as I backed out too fast and nearly hit a fence post. When I got home, there was a new message. A photo, not of Aaron, of my car outside the barn. The next morning, I searched Aaron's name with every detail I had. Aaron Kessler. Missing. Belridge. Red hoodie. And there he was. A real missing boy. But not current. Aaron Kessler had disappeared 6 years earlier, at age 16, after leaving home one October evening. His last known photo showed him in the same red hoodie. The same selfie Aaron had sent me was on a memorial page. The voice notes were worse. I found one of them clipped from a home video his mother had posted years ago. Aaron laughing at a birthday party. The exact same sentence had been cut, slowed down, made to sound afraid. I felt sick. Someone wasn't trapped. Someone was using him. I called the sheriff again. This time I got transferred to a detective named Rowan, who sounded tired but interested. I sent everything. The screenshots, the coordinates, the photo of my car. He called me back that evening. "Daniel," he said, "do not respond to that account anymore." "Do you know who it is?" A pause. "We have a person of interest." That was all he'd say. But whoever was behind the account didn't stop. They sent another location the next night. I didn't go. Then a photo came through. It showed a teenage boy I didn't recognize, walking across a gas station parking lot. Brown hair, thin frame, red jacket. The message said, "He looks enough like him, doesn't he?" I stopped breathing for a second. Another message. Maybe this one will make people care. That was the moment it became real in a way it hadn't before. Not creepy, not mysterious, dangerous. Detective Rowan told me later they traced pieces of the account to public Wi-Fi near Belridge. The profile had used VPNs, burner phones, old devices. Whoever it was knew how to hide, but not perfectly. 2 days later, they arrested Aaron's older brother, Caleb. He was 31, quiet, worked odd jobs, still lived in the area. According to the detective, Caleb had spent years posting about Aaron's case, arguing with strangers online, accusing police of giving up. People felt sorry for him at first. Then the clues started appearing. Backpacks in ditches, old phones in barns, messages from Aaron. And recently, boys who looked like Aaron had started getting followed. One of them reported a man pretending to need help with a broken-down truck. Another said someone left a red hoodie on his porch. Caleb hadn't found his brother. He had built a trap out of him. I never met him in person, but I heard his voice once. After his arrest, before the account got shut down, I received one final voice message. It wasn't Aaron this time. It was a man, calm and exhausted. "You don't understand," he said. "If I make enough people disappear the same way, someone will finally solve the first one." I played it once. Then I deleted Instagram from my phone. It's been almost 3 years now. I don't follow true crime pages anymore. I don't comment on missing person posts, even when I want to. Especially when I want to. Sometimes I still think about Aaron. The real Aaron. A kid frozen forever at 16. Smiling in an old red hoodie while strangers fight over his story online. But mostly I think about the barn. That phone ringing in the dark. The footsteps behind me. And how close I came to becoming just another clue Caleb left for someone else to find. Story 6. I didn't know the girl in the photos was dead until almost a month after I had been talking to her. At the time, I was 24, living alone in a small apartment in Dayton, Ohio, and working overnight inventory at a grocery store. My life wasn't exciting. That's actually what made everything worse when I look back on it. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't the type to meet strangers at midnight or get into cars with people I didn't know. I went to work, came home, slept through half the day, reheated leftovers, and watched old shows until I had to leave again. So when I matched with a girl named Leah on a dating app, it felt harmless. Her profile was normal. Almost too normal, but not in a way that raised alarms. She had 4 pictures. One of her outside a coffee shop. One with a golden retriever. One blurry mirror selfie. One photo at what looked like a family barbecue. Her bio said she was 23, liked horror movies, hated loud bars, and was trying to meet someone who isn't insane. I remember laughing at that line. I messaged her first. Something stupid about how everyone on dating apps says they hate loud bars while somehow always having pictures in loud bars. She replied in less than a minute. Finally, someone gets it. That was how it started. For the first week, we talked constantly. Not in a love-bombing way, not at first. It was casual. She asked about my job. She remembered details. She knew I worked nights, so she'd message me around 3 a.m. when I was on break, sitting near the loading dock with my hoodie pulled tight because the air always smelled like wet cardboard and cold metal back there. She said she had insomnia. That made sense to me. A lot of people do. The first thing that felt off happened on a Thursday morning. I had just gotten home from work, exhausted, still wearing my grocery store jacket. I was walking up the stairs to my second-floor apartment when my phone buzzed. It was Leah. Long night. I smiled because it seemed sweet. Then another message came in. Your building looks kind of depressing in daylight, LOL. I stopped on the stairs. My hand tightened around the railing. I looked back down through the glass entrance door at the small parking lot outside. There were a few cars, a delivery van, and a man walking a little dog near the curb. Nothing strange. Nobody staring. I typed, "How do you know what my building looks like?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Relax, you sent me a pic from your balcony yesterday. I had. I'd sent her a picture of the rain from my balcony. The corner of the parking lot was visible, maybe part of the brick wall across from mine. I told myself I was being weird. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the quiet stairwell around me suddenly felt too still. I went inside and locked the door. That night, she apologized. She said she didn't mean to freak me out. She said she was good at noticing details. That sounded reasonable enough, and honestly, I wanted it to be reasonable. I liked having someone to talk to. When you work nights and sleep while everyone else is alive, loneliness becomes background noise. You stop noticing it until someone interrupts it. 2 weeks later, we planned to meet. She picked a coffee shop downtown called Bell and Finch. I knew the place. Warm lights, small tables, overpriced drinks. The kind of place where people took laptop photos and pretended to be busy. We agreed on Saturday at 6 p.m. I got there early. I sat near the window with a coffee I didn't really want and kept checking the door. At 6:04 she messaged, "Running 10 late. Don't hate me." At 6:18 another message, "I'm so sorry. My roommate is having a breakdown. Can we rain check?" I was disappointed, but I wasn't angry. Things happen. Then, as I was getting up to leave, a man sitting 2 tables away stood up at the exact same time. I wouldn't have noticed him otherwise. Mid-30s maybe. Gray hoodie. Baseball cap. Plain face. He looked like anybody. But when I walked toward the exit, he walked behind me. When I paused by the trash can to throw away my cup, he paused too. Outside, the street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting, but my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. I crossed the street without needing to. He crossed too. I stopped in front of a closed boutique and pretended to check my phone. He kept walking. I watched him disappear around the corner and felt embarrassed. I told myself I was turning into one of those people who think every stranger is following them. That night, Leah sent a long apology. She said she felt terrible. She called me patient and sweet. She said most guys would have been cruel about it. Then she wrote, "I saw you leave. You looked sad." I sat up in bed. My room was dark except for the blue light of my phone. The heater clicked softly in the corner. Somewhere outside, tires hissed over wet pavement. I typed, "What do you mean you saw me leave?" No reply for almost 5 minutes. Then, I imagined it. Sorry. Bad wording. I stared at that message until the screen dimmed. The next few days I pulled back. Not completely, but enough that she noticed. Her messages became more frequent, then more emotional. Did I do something wrong? You're different now. I hate when people disappear. I thought you were safe. That last one made something cold move through me. I told my friend Marcus about it at work. He was stocking cereal while I stood beside the pallet jack, showing him the messages. He squinted at my phone and said, "Bro, she's clingy. That's dating apps. She said she saw me leave the coffee shop. Maybe she was there and got nervous." That explanation bothered me almost more than the alternative. If she was there, why not just say that? Marcus shrugged. People are weird. People are weird. That became the sentence I used to explain everything for a while. Then the envelope showed up. It was taped to my apartment door on a Monday morning. Plain white envelope. No stamp. No name. Just my apartment number written in blue ink. Inside was a photo, not printed from a phone. A real photo, glossy and slightly bent. It showed me sitting inside Bell and Finch, looking down at my coffee. Taken from outside the window. My stomach dropped so hard I actually stepped back from my own door. There was writing on the back. "You looked lonelier in person." I called Marcus first. Then I called the non-emergency police line. An officer came by that afternoon. He was polite, but I could tell he didn't know what to do with it. He asked if I knew who sent it. I told him about Leah. He asked if I had her full name, address, anything besides a profile. I didn't. He told me to block her, document everything, and call if she showed up or threatened me. That was the first time I felt truly stupid. Not scared. Stupid. Like I had invited something into my life, and then handed it a map. I blocked Leah on the app. Within an hour, I got a text from an unknown number. That hurt. I had never given her my number. I stared at it, standing in my kitchen with the refrigerator humming behind me, and every hair on my arms lifted. Another text came. Blocking people doesn't make them disappear. I changed all my passwords. I made my social media private. I checked old posts and realized with a sick feeling that I'd once posted a birthday photo from work with my store name visible on my jacket. My apartment building showed up in an old story highlight. My phone number had probably been floating around some data broker site for years. It was all possible. That was the worst part. Nothing required movie-level hacking. Just patience. For 3 nights, nothing happened. Then I started seeing the gray hoodie. At the gas station across from work. In the frozen aisle near closing. Across the parking lot from my building, standing near the dumpsters, head down like he was looking at his phone. Every time I tried to get a better look, he turned away. Every time I told myself to take a picture, my hands shook too badly, or he was already gone. The messages kept coming from new numbers. Rough shift. Marcus talks too much. You should close your blinds. That one came at 7:12 in the morning, while I was brushing my teeth. My bathroom window faced the alley behind the building. It had frosted glass, and I had never worried about it before. I moved slowly toward it, toothbrush still in my mouth, and saw a shadow pass across the pale square of glass. I didn't scream. I froze. There's a type of fear that doesn't feel like fear at first. It feels like your body powering down, like your brain is trying to make you invisible. I backed out of the bathroom and called 911. Police searched the alley and found nothing. No footprints clear enough to matter. No person. But under my bathroom window, pressed into the mud near the drain pipe, they found a cigarette butt and a black glove. The officer asked if I smoked. I didn't. I stayed with Marcus for 2 nights after that. He lived with his girlfriend, and they let me sleep on their couch. I remember lying there under a thin blanket, listening to the aquarium filter bubble in the living room, feeling ridiculous and grateful and afraid all at once. On the second night, around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Marcus's couch looks uncomfortable. I sat up so fast I almost fell off it. Across the room, the front window was covered by blinds. A thin gap at the bottom showed the dark shape of the apartment complex courtyard outside. Ivuke Marcus. He grabbed a baseball bat, which would have been funny in any other situation, and we called the police again. This time, they took it more seriously. They told me not to go back to my apartment alone. They asked for screenshots. They asked about Leah's profile. But when we checked, the account was gone. Completely deleted. A detective called me the next morning. Her name was Ruiz. She asked me to send every photo Leah had used. I had screenshots because I'd sent one to Marcus weeks earlier, joking that she seemed too pretty to be matching with me. Detective Ruiz called me back that afternoon. Her voice was different. She asked, "Do you know a woman named Hannah Miller?" I said no. She told me the photos from Leah's profile belonged to Hannah. Hannah had died in a car accident 2 years earlier in Indiana. Her old Instagram was still public. Someone had taken her pictures and built a fake person around them. I remember sitting in Marcus's kitchen while his girlfriend washed dishes very quietly, pretending not to listen. The room smelled like lemon soap and burnt toast. I looked at the screenshot of Leah's smiling face and felt something inside me twist. This person had used a dead girl to talk to me. Not because they loved me, not because they were lonely in some sad, forgivable way, because they wanted a mask. Detective Ruiz told me they were trying to trace the numbers, but most were from apps. She advised me to stay somewhere else if I could. I called my older sister in Columbus and asked if I could stay with her for a while. I decided to go back to my apartment once, with Marcus, to pack. That was the worst decision I made. We went at 4 p.m., broad daylight. The parking lot was half full. A kid was riding a scooter near the mailboxes. An old woman on the first floor was watering plants. Everything looked normal, and that made me feel calmer. Marcus stayed in the living room while I packed clothes in my bedroom. I had just opened my closet when I noticed the smell. Not strong, just wrong. Cigarettes and damp fabric. I don't smoke. No one had been in my bedroom for days. My heart sank into my stomach as the closet door clicked against the wall, and I realized the pile of laundry on the floor wasn't sitting the way I had left it. Behind my hanging coats, something moved. For 1 second, my brain refused to understand it. Then a hand came out from between the clothes. I stumbled backward so hard I hit the bed frame. A man stepped out of my closet. Gray hoodie, baseball cap, plain face. The same man from the coffee shop. He didn't rush me. He didn't yell. He just stood there, slightly hunched because my closet was small, staring at me with calm, empty eyes that didn't blink. In his hand was my old work badge. He smiled like we were already in the middle of a conversation. "You came back," he said. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. Just this broken, airless sound. Then Marcus shouted my name from the living room. The man's head turned toward his voice, and that snapped something loose in me. I grabbed the lamp from my nightstand and threw it. I don't even think I aimed. It hit the wall beside him and shattered. He lunged. I ran. I slammed into the hallway wall, bounced off it, and nearly fell. Marcus appeared at the bedroom doorway, and the man stopped for half a second. That half second probably saved me. Marcus swung the bat. It hit the doorframe more than the man, but the sound was huge, like a gunshot in that tiny apartment. The man shoved past him and ran for the front door. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling as I fumbled for my phone. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. By the time police arrived, he was gone. But he had left things behind. In my closet, behind a loose panel I didn't even know existed, they found a backpack. Inside were printed photos of me entering work, leaving work, carrying groceries, standing on my balcony, sleeping on Marcus's couch through the window. There were also photos of other people, mostly men around my age. Some had names written on the backs. Some had dates. Some had notes. Too suspicious. Moved. Still possible. Mine said, "Trust slowly." Better. I threw up in the hallway when Detective Ruiz showed me that. They never caught him. They found out the apartment below mine had been empty for maintenance, and someone had broken in through a loose basement window. From there, he could access the utility spaces and possibly hear more than I want to think about. They believed he had been inside my apartment more than once. Maybe while I was at work. Maybe while I was asleep. I moved within a week. Broke my lease, lost money, didn't care. My sister drove down and helped me pack what little I could stand to keep. I threw away my bedding, my shower curtain, half my clothes, even the coffee mug I used every morning, because suddenly everything felt touched. Months passed, then a year. I stopped using dating apps. I stopped posting where I worked. I covered my webcam. I check the back seat of my car, even when I know nobody is there. I don't sleep with my windows open anymore. I don't ignore strange messages. I don't tell myself people are just weird when my gut is screaming at me. The police said maybe he moved on. They said people like that often vanish when pressure builds. I know they meant it to comfort me. It didn't, because vanishing doesn't mean gone. It just means somewhere else. Sometimes I still think about Hannah Miller, the dead girl whose smile he borrowed to get close to me. I think about how I felt sorry for Leah when she said she had insomnia, how I told her about my bad shifts and my childhood dog and the stupid little routines that made up my life. I think about him reading those messages, building a version of me in his head, deciding I was better. Even after escaping, even with the safety of the police lights behind me, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying the face I'd seen in my closet, the calm, empty eyes that didn't blink. The scariest part isn't that he lied. It's that I wanted to believe him. And people like that don't need much. A photo, a name, a lonely hour after midnight. Sometimes that's enough to open the door. Story 7. The first thing that made me realize I was in real danger wasn't a scream, or a threat, or even the man standing outside my apartment. It was a photo of me sleeping. Not posed, not old, not something I had taken myself. It was me, asleep on my own couch, one arm hanging off the side, the blue light from the TV still glowing across my face. And under the photo, in a message from a girl I thought I had been talking to for almost 3 weeks, were 4 words. You looked peaceful there. My name is Daniel. I was 26 when this happened, living in a small rented apartment in Richmond, Virginia. At the time, my life was honestly pretty boring. I worked front desk at a budget hotel near the highway, mostly evening shifts, checking in truck drivers, tired families, and people who didn't want to talk unless their key card stopped working. I wasn't dating much. I had just gotten out of a long relationship, and I wasn't exactly looking for anything serious. Mostly, I was lonely in that quiet way people don't really admit. I'd come home after work, microwave something cheap, sit on the couch, and scroll until I got tired enough to sleep. That was how I met Maya. At least, that was the name on the dating app. Her profile looked normal. Not fake model perfect, just pretty in a regular way. Brown hair, soft smile, a little scar near one eyebrow. Her bio said she liked old horror movies, late-night drives, and people who actually read messages before replying. I remember thinking that was funny. I messaged her first. I said, "So what's the best horror movie to watch alone at 2 a.m. if I want to ruin my sleep schedule?" She replied maybe 5 minutes later. "Depends. Do you want to be scared, or do you want to feel watched?" That should have felt like a warning. At the time, it just felt like flirting. We started talking every night. Maya was easy to talk to. That was the thing. She never came on too strong at first. She asked little questions and remembered every answer. She knew I hated the smell of the hotel lobby carpet after it rained. She knew I drank gas station coffee because I was too lazy to make it at home. She knew I lived alone. She knew my sister lived 2 hours away. She knew I had a habit of leaving my balcony door cracked open because my apartment got stuffy. I didn't think about how much I was giving away. People act like catfishing starts with someone asking for money or sending obvious lies. But sometimes it starts with attention. Someone paying just enough attention that you stop noticing how much you're handing them. The first weird moment happened on a Tuesday night. I was working the front desk, and the hotel was almost dead. Rain tapped against the big front windows, and the fluorescent lights made everything look pale and sick. Around midnight, Maya messaged me. "Slow night." I smiled because it was true. I typed, painfully slow. She replied, "You look tired." I stared at the screen. Not, "You sound tired." "You look tired." I looked up from my phone toward the lobby windows. Outside, the parking lot was slick and empty except for 2 trucks and a white sedan parked near the vending machines. I told myself she probably meant from the way I was texting. So I wrote, "I feel tired." A minute passed. Then she said, "You should stop rubbing your eyes so much." My whole body went cold. I looked around the lobby again. The hallway to the elevators was empty. The breakfast room was dark. The front doors were locked after midnight unless someone buzzed in. I checked the security camera monitor under the desk. Nothing. No one in the lobby. No one standing outside the front entrance. The white sedan was still parked near the vending machines, but the rain on the windows made it hard to see inside. I typed, "Are you here?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally she replied, "No LOL. I meant from your profile pictures. You have tired eyes." I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of rain against the glass made me freeze for a second, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. Still, I let it go. That's what bothers me most now. Not that I missed one warning sign, but that I kept explaining them away because I wanted things to be normal. A few days later, she asked if we could move the conversation off the app. I gave her my number. I know, stupid, but at that point, it didn't feel stupid. It felt natural. The texts became more personal after that. She sent photos. Nothing inappropriate. Just selfies. Her in a hoodie. Her holding coffee. Her sitting in a car with the sun across her face. She had this warm, shy smile that made her seem harmless. We planned to meet that Saturday at a little diner about 15 minutes from my apartment. I got there early because I didn't want to look careless. The diner smelled like fried onions and burnt coffee, and there was an old jukebox in the corner that didn't work. I sat in a booth by the window and kept checking my phone like an idiot. At 7:10, Maya texted, "I'm sorry, my anxiety is bad tonight. I'm outside, but I don't think I can come in." I looked out the window. There were several cars in the lot. A pickup, a blue van, a black SUV with tinted windows near the edge of the parking lot. I typed, "Where are you? I can come out if that helps." She replied fast, "No, please don't. I'm embarrassed." I didn't want to push her. I said it was okay. I told her we could try another night. Then she sent a picture. It was the front of the diner, taken from the parking lot. Through the window, you could see me sitting in the booth, looking down at my phone. I felt my stomach drop. I looked outside again. The black SUV's headlights were off. I couldn't see anyone inside. I typed, "Is that you in the SUV?" No reply. I called her. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. No greeting. Just the automated voice telling me the number was unavailable. I left the diner right after that. I tried to act calm as I walked to my car, but my hands were shaking so hard I dropped my keys once on the wet pavement. The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting, but my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. When I got home, I texted her again. "Hey, that made me uncomfortable. Just be honest with me. Were you there?" She replied almost an hour later. "I'm sorry. I panicked. I thought seeing you first would make it easier." That sounded believable. Not good, but believable. Then she added, "You're taller than I expected." I hadn't stood up before she sent the photo. I read that message over and over. Then I blocked her. For one full day, nothing happened. I started feeling embarrassed again. I told myself I had overreacted. Maybe she had seen me walk in. Maybe she was awkward. Maybe I had ruined something with a person who was just anxious and bad at dating. Then Monday morning, there was a small brown envelope taped to my apartment door. No stamp, no return address, just my first name written in black marker. Daniel. Inside was a printed photo of my car, parked outside the hotel. On the back, someone had written, "You block fast." I called the police. The officer who came out was polite, but I could tell from his face that this wasn't enough for much. He asked if I had proof that Maya had sent it. I didn't. He asked if she had threatened me. Not exactly. He told me to save everything, keep my doors locked, and call again if she showed up. I remember standing there in my doorway after he left, holding that photo, feeling like I had just been told to wait until something worse happened. And something worse did happen. Over the next week, I started seeing the same black SUV. At least, I think it was the same one. It was parked across the street from my apartment one morning when I got home from work. It was outside a gas station when I stopped for coffee. It was 2 lanes behind me on Broad Street for almost 10 minutes before it turned off without signaling. Every time, I tried to convince myself there were thousands of black SUVs in Virginia. I told myself I was creating patterns because I was scared. Then the text started again. From new numbers. You sleep with the TV on. Your balcony door should lock better. Red hoodie looks good on you. The red hoodie text came while I was wearing it. I was standing in my kitchen making toast when my phone buzzed with that message. My blinds were mostly closed, but not completely. There was a thin gap near the corner of the living room window. I moved slowly toward it. Outside, across the courtyard, a man stood near the mailboxes. He had a baseball cap pulled low and a phone in his hand. He wasn't looking down at it. He was looking up at my window. I stepped back so quickly I knocked over a chair. By the time I looked again, he was walking away. That night, I slept at my coworker Ethan's place. He was the only person close by I trusted enough to call. Ethan tried to keep it light at first. He said maybe it was some jealous boyfriend using the girl's photos. Maybe I'd matched with someone who had more problems than she admitted. Then I showed him the photo of my car. He stopped joking. "Man," he said quietly, "that's not normal." I didn't sleep much on his couch. His apartment was above a pizza place, and all night I could hear pipes knocking in the walls and cars passing outside. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Ethan snores. I sat straight up. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Ethan was asleep in the recliner across the room, mouth open, snoring softly. I looked toward the window. The blinds were closed, but one slat was bent upward near the bottom. I woke him up. We called the police again. They drove around the block, checked the alley, looked near the dumpsters. Nothing. The next day, I stopped by the hotel to talk to my manager, Karen. She was in her office eating a salad from a plastic container when I explained everything. She listened, frowning more and more as I talked. When I finished, she pulled up the security footage from the night Maya texted that I looked tired. We watched the lobby camera first. Nothing. Then the parking lot camera. There it was. The black SUV, parked near the vending machines. The driver's window was cracked open, just a little. The camera angle wasn't great, but around 12:14 a.m., someone stepped out. A man, not a woman. Tall, thin, wearing a dark jacket and a cap. He walked to the side window of the lobby, stood there for almost 4 minutes, then went back to the SUV. Karen whispered, "Jesus." She saved the footage and called the police herself. That was when a detective got involved. Detective Alvarez. Calm voice. Tired eyes. He asked me to send him Maya's photos, screenshots, numbers, everything. A few hours later, he called me back. He said, "The woman in these pictures is named Claire Donnelly." I didn't know the name. He paused before continuing. "She passed away in 2021. I remember just sitting down on the edge of my bed. I wasn't even at home anymore. I had gone back only to grab more clothes, but hearing that made the room tilt slightly. Maya wasn't Maya. She wasn't anxious. She wasn't shy. She wasn't sitting outside diners trying to work up courage. Someone had taken photos of a dead woman and used her face to get close to me. There's something deeply sick about that. Something colder than just lying. It made every message feel contaminated. Every joke, every late-night confession, every "I understand you" suddenly had someone else behind it. Not a lonely girl. A man watching through windows. Detective Alvarez told me not to stay alone. He said they were tracing what they could, but the numbers were from temporary apps. He said the SUV plates on the hotel footage were unreadable. He said to avoid predictable routines. Avoid predictable routines. That phrase made me feel like prey. I decided to leave town for a while and stay with my sister. But before I left, I needed to go back to my apartment one last time. Ethan came with me. We went in the afternoon, when the sun was out and people were walking dogs in the courtyard. I remember thinking daylight made everything feel stupid, like fear belonged to nighttime. My apartment looked untouched when we went in. Same dishes in the sink, same blanket on the couch, same stale smell from being closed up. Ethan stayed near the door while I packed clothes in my bedroom. I had just opened my closet when I noticed something on the floor. A phone. Not mine. It was an old black smartphone with a cracked screen, lying half hidden under a pair of shoes. I stared at it for a few seconds, not understanding. Then it lit up. One message appeared on the lock screen. Turn around. My heart sank into my stomach as the bedroom door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone. Someone was watching, and I had no way out. I turned slowly. The closet door behind me moved. Not much, just enough for me to see fingers curled around the edge from inside. I don't remember making a sound. Ethan later told me I screamed, but I don't remember hearing it. All I remember is the closet door opening and a man stepping out into my bedroom like he had been waiting there for hours. He was tall and thin. Baseball cap. Doc jacket. Same man from the security footage. He looked so normal. That was the worst part. Not wild-eyed. Not messy. Not like a movie villain. Just calm. Almost bored. He said, "I knew you'd come back." I backed into the dresser, so hard the mirror shook. He moved toward me, and I threw the first thing my hand touched. A ceramic mug from my dresser. It hit his shoulder and shattered against the wall. He flinched. Not much, but enough. Ethan kicked the bedroom door open, so hard it slammed into the wall. The man turned toward him, and I ran. I stumbled past Ethan into the hallway, slipped on the rug, and almost went down. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling, as I fumbled for the front door lock. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. Behind me, Ethan yelled, "Get out! Go!" There was a crash in the bedroom. I got the door open and ran into the hallway barefoot. A woman from across the hall opened her door and immediately screamed when she saw my face. I must have looked insane. I was shaking, gasping, trying to say call 911, but the words came out broken. The man ran out of my apartment seconds later. For one brief moment, he looked directly at me. Even after escaping, even with the safety of the police lights that came later, a small, cold part of me couldn't stop replaying the face I'd seen in that hallway. The calm, empty eyes that didn't blink. He didn't chase me. He ran toward the stairs. Ethan came out holding his arm, bleeding a little from a cut, but nothing serious. The man had shoved past him and knocked over a glass shelf. The police searched the area for hours. They found the black SUV abandoned 6 blocks away with stolen plates. Inside my apartment, they found things that still make me feel sick when I think about them. A backpack hidden behind the water heater closet. Printed screenshots of my dating profile. Photos of me walking into work. Photos through my balcony door. A copy of my apartment key. A notebook filled with names. Some crossed out. Some circled. Mine had a star next to it. Under my name, he had written, "Responds to kindness." I moved out that week. I never went back alone. My sister and Ethan helped me pack, but honestly, I left most of it. Furniture, dishes, clothes. I didn't want anything that had been in that place with him. They never caught him. Detective Alvarez said they believed he had done this before. Maybe not exactly the same way, but close. Fake profiles, dead women's photos, lonely men, people who worked odd hours, people who lived alone, people who were easy to observe without anyone noticing. That was the part one couldn't shake. He hadn't picked me because I was special. He picked me because I was available. It's been almost 3 years now. I don't use dating apps anymore. I don't post where I work. I don't leave blinds open, not even during the day. I check hotel parking lots without meaning to. I notice cars behind me for too long. I keep a chair against my bedroom door when I sleep in unfamiliar places. I know that sounds dramatic, but once someone turns your ordinary life into a map, you never really get to feel ordinary again. Sometimes I still think about Claire Donnelly, the woman whose face he stole. I wonder how many people talked to her photo, trusted her smile, confessed things to someone who wasn't even alive to hear them. And I think about that line from her fake profile, trying to meet someone who isn't insane. I used to think it was a joke. Now it feels like he was laughing at me before we even started talking. Because the scariest part of being catfished isn't always finding out the person isn't real. Sometimes it's finding out the person behind the lie is real, and they already know where you live.